Welcome to Farming Aid.
When people hear the word cattle, most minds jump straight to the American West. Endless ranches, cowboy culture, and massive herds moving across open land. The USA has built a global image as the home of big beef and big production. But quietly, across the Atlantic, Europe has been shaping cattle in a very different way. Not louder, not bigger, but often smarter, more efficient, and more focused on long-term value. So the real question is not who has more cows. It is who breeds the cattle that actually make the most money. Profit in cattle is not just about size or speed. It is about how well an animal fits its environment, how much it costs to keep alive and productive, how long it stays useful, and how much buyers are willing to pay for what it produces. The USA built its system around volume, growth, and scale. Europe built its system around balance, tradition, and premium quality. Both approaches work, but they create very different kinds of profitable cattle. In this video, we are going to break down the real battle between Europe and the USA. We will look at genetics, systems, markets, and the future of beef and dairy. By the end, you will see why the answer is not as simple as you might think, and why the world's most profitable cattle might not come from where you expect. In the USA, the story of profitable cattle starts with beef breeds like Black Angus. Angus cattle dominate American beef production for one simple reason: they are incredibly efficient at turning feed into high-quality meat that consumers love. Marbling, tenderness, and consistent carcass traits make Angus beef easy to market at a premium. American ranchers have spent decades refining Angus genetics to grow faster, finish earlier, and perform reliably in feedlots. This has created a system where time equals money. The faster an animal reaches market weight with good quality, the higher the profit margin per head. Add in large-scale operations, mechanization, and data-driven breeding programs, and the USA has built a cattle industry that is extremely good at producing a lot of beef efficiently. But profitability in the US is also tied to risk. Feed costs, land prices, fuel, and labor can be high. When corn prices rise or drought hits grazing land, profit margins can shrink fast. That is why American cattle systems are very sensitive to market swings. On good years, profits can be huge. On bad years, losses can be painful. Still, the US advantage is scale and infrastructure. The ability to move millions of cattle through well-organized supply chains means that when things are running smoothly, the profits per operation can be enormous. Europe, on the other hand, often plays a different game. Instead of pushing maximum growth at all costs, many European systems focus on efficiency from grass, long productive lifespans, and strong regional branding. Think about breeds like Charolais, Limousin, Simmental, and even heritage breeds like the Highland or the Hungarian Grey. These cattle are not just meat machines. They are adapted to local climates, thrive on pasture, and often require less intensive feed inputs. In many parts of Europe, cattle make money not only through meat but also through milk, breeding stock, and even agritourism and cultural value. European profitability often shows up in the price per kilogram, not just total kilograms produced. Protected designations of origin, organic labels, grass-fed certifications, and animal welfare standards allow European farmers to sell beef and dairy at premium prices. A smaller herd in Europe can sometimes generate similar income to a much larger herd in the US, simply because the product is sold as something special, not just as a commodity. In that sense, Europe breeds cattle that are profitable because they fit perfectly into high-value niches. Another major difference between the two continents is how breeding goals are set. In the USA, breeding programs often prioritize growth rate, feed efficiency, and carcass traits above almost everything else. Calves are selected to grow fast and finish heavy. In Europe, breeding goals are more balanced. Fertility, longevity, ease of calving, and adaptability to low-input systems matter just as much as growth. A cow that stays productive for many years and raises healthy calves on mostly grass can be more profitable over her lifetime than a cow that grows fast but burns out early. This long-term thinking is one reason European cattle systems can be very resilient. When feed prices rise or regulations change, European farmers often have more flexibility because their cattle are already adapted to doing more with less. They do not rely as heavily on expensive grain or intensive feedlot systems. That does not mean Europe is more profitable in every situation, but it does mean European cattle profitability is often more stable over time. Market access also plays a huge role in this debate. The USA has one of the largest domestic beef markets in the world. Americans eat a lot of beef, and that creates consistent demand. Export markets in Asia and elsewhere also value U.S. beef highly. This gives American cattle producers a wide range of buyers. Europe, meanwhile, has a more fragmented market. Different countries, different tastes, and different regulations shape how cattle products move. But that fragmentation can also be an advantage. It allows European producers to target very specific markets with very specific products, often at very high prices. Take grass-fed beef as an example. In the USA, grass-fed is growing, but the mainstream market is still heavily feedlot-based. In Europe, grass-based systems are the norm in many regions. That means European cattle are already positioned for markets that care about environmental impact, animal welfare, and natural production methods. As global consumers become more conscious about how their food is produced, this could tilt profitability more and more toward European-style systems. Then there is the dairy side of cattle profitability. In the US, dairy breeds like Holstein dominate. These cows produce massive volumes of milk, and profitability comes from sheer output. In Europe, dairy systems often combine high production with strong processing traditions. Cheese, butter, yogurt, and specialty products add value far beyond raw milk. A liter of milk in Europe can turn into a product that sells for many times its base price. That added value flows back to the cattle that produced it. So in dairy, Europe arguably breeds some of the most profitable cattle in the world when you look at value per animal rather than just liters per year. Another layer to this debate is regulation and support. European farmers often operate under strict environmental and animal welfare rules. At first glance, this seems like a disadvantage. More rules mean more costs. But in practice, these rules also create trust in the product. Consumers pay more for beef and dairy they believe is safe, ethical, and sustainable. In the USA, regulations exist too, but the market is more commodity-driven. Price competition is fierce. This pushes producers to chase efficiency constantly. Again, high reward, but also high pressure. Climate also shapes profitability. The USA has everything from deserts to grasslands to snowy plains. That diversity allows for many types of cattle systems, but it also means some areas are extremely vulnerable to drought, heat stress, and weather extremes. Europe has its own climate challenges, but many European cattle breeds are deeply adapted to their specific environments. That local adaptation often translates into lower vet bills, better fertility, and steadier performance, all of which improve profit over time. So when we ask which continent breeds the world's most profitable cattle, the honest answer depends on how you define profit. If profit means maximum output, fast growth, and the ability to scale up to huge operations, the USA has a clear edge. American cattle, especially beef breeds like Angus and Hereford and dairy breeds like Holstein, are bred to produce a lot, very efficiently, in systems designed for volume. In good market conditions, that can be incredibly profitable. If profit means value per animal, stability over time, and the ability to sell products at a premium because of quality, tradition, and sustainability, then Europe has a very strong case. European cattle are often bred not just to grow, but to fit perfectly into systems that reward care, flavor, and story. A European cow might not always produce more than an American one, but what she produces is often worth more in the market. There is also a future angle to this. The global cattle industry is changing. Climate pressure, consumer expectations, and environmental concerns are reshaping what profitable really means. Systems that rely heavily on grain, fuel, and intensive inputs may face more challenges. Systems that work well on grass, integrate into local ecosystems, and connect to premium markets may become more attractive. In that sense, European breeding philosophies could gain more influence worldwide. At the same time, the USA is not standing still. American breeders are also working on efficiency, resilience, and sustainability. Grass-fed programs, regenerative grazing, and low-input systems are growing fast in the US. This means the gap between European and American cattle systems may not be about geography for much longer, but about which ideas each side adopts from the other. In the end, Europe and the USA are not really competing to see who has the best cattle in a simple sense. They are showing two different models of profitability. One is built on scale, speed, and volume. The other is built on balance, value, and tradition. The most profitable cattle in the world are not just the ones that grow the fastest or the biggest. They are the ones that fit their system perfectly and meet what the market wants at the right time. So after looking at both sides, one thing becomes clear. This is not really a fight about who is better. It is about two different ways of building profit with cattle. The USA has mastered scale, speed, and volume. Its cattle are bred to grow fast, finish heavy, and move through a powerful system built for efficiency. When markets are strong, that model can produce massive returns. Europe, on the other hand, has mastered value, balance, and longevity. Its cattle are bred to fit their land, stay productive for years, and produce meat and milk that sell for premium prices because of quality, tradition, and trust. The world is changing, and what profitable means is changing with it. Consumers care more about how food is raised. Climate pressure is forcing systems to do more with less. That puts both continents in an interesting position. The USA is learning from Europe about grass-based, low-input, and high-welfare systems. Europe is learning from the USA about data, genetics, and efficiency. The future winner may not be one continent over the other, but the producers who combine the best of both worlds. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which system do you think wins in the long run, Europe's value-first model or America's volume-first powerhouse? Let's talk about it.